Hey, I got to ask you this though. Do the casinos cheat?
Do casinos cheat? They don't need to cheat because the math says that they're always going to win in the long run. So they don't have to cheat.
Is there any ways to get it around? And
So yeah, you need two things if you want to try to beat the house.
what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Figure Cartel Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all things how to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache possible. And I've got a multi-millionaire here with me. The goal of this podcast is to collapse time. I spent 11 years, and if I just had the right information that we're giving you right now, I could have probably done it in 11 months. So by listening to these, you're going to be able to take decades and turn them into days. So without further ado, I've got somebody that's been a blackjack dealer, a drug addict, a multi-millionaire, a house flipper, and a cryptocurrency millionaire. Guy has lived some life. Great friend of mine. Appreciate you having on. Welcome, Corey, to the show.
Oh man, I'm truly blessed and honored to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Do you want to talk about how to collapse these guys' time to where they can go from maybe just starting off in their career, they might have a 9 to 5, to becoming a multi-millionaire? You know, we could unpack a lot there, but let's just take it back to the very beginning. You started off humble beginnings like I did. You know, you didn't have anything handed to you, no rich parents, no handouts. You know, you're able to put yourself in a position where now you live in Puerto Rico. You got a beautiful family. You're living out your dream life. And I know it didn't come easy. So, tell me, man, where did this journey start for you? And, take me back, 20 years ago. Where were you? Did you have money? What did it look like?
Nah, I mean, we go back all the way 20 years. No, obviously I didn't have any money. I had a good job. Like you just said earlier, I had a blackjack dealer job, and that job was pretty decent.
Hey, I got to ask you this though. Do the casinos cheat?
Do casinos cheat? They don't need to cheat because the math says that they're always going to win in the long run. So they don't have to cheat.
So there's none of you see all those people that are like, yeah, Mickey Mays got kicked out of all the casinos, and he knows the way. Is there any ways to get it around? And
so yeah, you need two things if you want to try to beat the house. One, you need a massive bankroll because the house has a shit ton of money, and they have a massive bankroll, and they usually can out bankroll almost anybody. If you have a massive bankroll and you're able to count cards, which is just putting the statistics about 2% in your favor. That also means, okay, if it's only 2% in your favor, that means you're going to still get your ass whooped some nights.
Mm-hmm.
Some nights the house is going to take you, and that's why you have to have the big bankroll. And so it takes multiple times of you going in there and counting cards and playing the statistics for you to win the money. And there are guys out there who travel around the United States, and that's just all they do. It's a very stressful way to me to make money because they are always getting kicked out of casinos. They're always getting banned. There's always other issues coming. They get kicked in the nuts by the casino 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then they have to try to make it back up. And so it's just a rough way to make a living, but people do it.
Yeah, there's a lot better ways to make a living out there, right? If you're gonna make a living, Corey, you've been in that world, so So tell us about what did the life look like, on the casino floor day in and day out. I know you were working hard, you were partying hard. Take us back to those days.
That was it, man. It was the rock and roll lifestyle for me. And the casino really enabled it, not only because we're making decent money, right? If you're working for the man, this is like an okay job, working 6 hours a night, making 140 grand a year. It was okay, but like we spent all our money on alcohol and drugs, man. And we'd be doing cocaine in the pit. I mean, drinking on our breaks, everything. And it's just how it's not only with me, it was like that's the lifestyle of a lot of blackjack dealers. It's just insane. They just live a very fast lifestyle. And so at the time where I was at mentally, spiritually, I guess it fit in because I was in a very destructive way of living and I was going nowhere fast but to my deathbed, really. And that's where I tell people entrepreneurship and real estate saved my life, hands down. I've been sober for over 5 years now. Got a beautiful family live in Puerto Rico. That stuff would have never happened for the entrepreneurship journey and getting into real estate, all because I was just chasing the dollar initially. That's all I wanted. I wanted more money.
Yeah, but in order to make more money comes to those who solve problems, right?
That's right.
In order for you to be a big problem solver, in order for you to create the impact for you to get that money, you got to clean all areas of your life up. And it forces you to level up in ways that You didn't have to if you got a 9-to-5 job, right?
Yeah, I mean, God has, very funny ways to kind of get you to go in the direction that you were meant to go in the first place. And he knew I was driven by money. And so I used to watch that Flip or Flop show by Tarek Hamusa back in the day. And, I had some money in the bank because I was dealing cards and I was always good at saving money and putting a stash away. And my girlfriend at the time, she was part-time blackjack dealer and part-time realtor. And one day she looks at me, she goes, why don't you flip a house so I can list it? Thinking from her own perspective, she could make some money, right? And I was like, man, these guys in 20 minutes, they make $80,000. I don't know. Why don't I flip a house so I can, make some extra money on the side? And that's all the initial thought process was, just making money on the side, some extra money so I could party more. And I was running around my neighborhood the next day and I saw one of those bandit signs. And it said, fix or flip, buy price, ARV. They had a number, right? Had numbers, and I had no idea what ARV was back then, right? Then I had a phone number to call. I stopped. I called that phone number. I bought that house. Took me 6 months, and I made $8,000. That was my very first deal while I was still dealing cards at the casino.
6 months, you made $8,000,
Yeah.
which is a terrible deal in real estate, guys, by the way.
Horrible.
But hey, at least you made money and didn't lose money, right?
Yeah, well, that was the first deal. The second deal, I started going to these local RIAs here in Phoenix. And that's just where, a bunch of people in real estate kind of get together and, and meet each other. And so I started meeting some wholesalers. And I met Chris Simon there at the RIA and I bought my second house from him. I made $20,000 in 3 months. Not too bad. Now we're starting to get a little bit of traction, but my ego got in the way there. And, for one, I wasn't paying for any mentorship, which we're talking about cutting down time. I'm going to be really leaning on that multiple times through this interviews with mentorship, masterminds, understanding what other people's blueprints who came before you and the mistakes they made is how you suppress time, really. And I wasn't doing any of that. I feel like I could do it all right. I've heard about these masterminds, heard about mentorships, and I bought my third property. I bought 4 houses all at once, thinking, okay, the way to make more money is just buy more houses. Well, at that time, I was also going through a different contractor. The one contractor we had, he just sucked anyways. And this guy, man, he took us to the cleaners, man. I lost probably about $140,000 on those 4 houses.
Whole year's salary,
Man. It was all my 401k money that I had saved up from working in the casino for like 13 years, right? And then any money that I had saved up in my bank account plus previous flip money completely wiped out, man. Completely wiped out. He took us to the cleaners.
brutal. And so, most people would have just stopped at that and said, you know what? It took me 13 years to make this money. I'm not touching this again. I put my hand on the hot stove. It burnt me. I'm not doing it again.
Yep.
But you didn't. You put your hand back on the hot stove. and what ended up happening? Because how did you bounce back from such a significant loss in that period of your time? Like, did you go to a dark place? Did you end up just saying, let's hard charge through this? How did you feel in that moment, and how did you overcome
I
it?
definitely went to a dark place. In fact, it was more than 104. Now I remember back. It was more around $250,000 that I lost in those 4 houses. When all the dust had settled, it was like 104 just out of my 401k. And no, man, I was very in a dark place where, I was drinking heavily. Obviously, I was already drinking anyways. A lot of drugs, just kind of like, trying to process the thought of losing everything. The one thing that I still had, though, was that job. And so I still had that, but I knew if I had just given up real estate or given up the idea of being an entrepreneur, that the money's gone forever. I would have gone back to dealing cards and I could have done that, and I would have never acquired that money back. I only would get the money by dealing cards moving forward. But I knew the only way I was going to get a chance to get that money back is if I pressed on and kept trying to flip these houses.
Boom. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and drop a bomb on that. So you know what that's called? It's called sunken cost fallacy. What sunken cost fallacy means is he lost all that money and knew that the only way that he was going to recoup it and see the light at the end of the tunnel was to just keep on going. When you're going through hell, you keep on going. And that was how my journey started too. When I started in 2014, I went on 104 face-to-face seller appointments before I got my first deal. So I started real estate with $5,000 in my name and torched it all to the ground real quick, trying to market and go out and lock up contracts on houses. I got kicked out of 104 houses, told no. And I remember on like, about the 75th time getting told no, I was sitting there and I was like, man, maybe other people are cut out for this. Maybe it's not for me. Should just go get a regular job, be happy with that. And then I said, well, first of all, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Yep.
And the only way that I'm going to make it through this is to just keep going. So it was a get rich or die trying moment where it was like, I'm going to see this through or die trying. I'll be homeless in the back of a grocery store writing bandit signs on cardboard boxes. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
And that's the dog mentality that you got to have if you want to make it in this world. And so many people lack that. I think 99% of people don't have that dog inside of them to push when shit really gets hard and when shit hits the fan. And it's the ones that do, like Corey, that persist. And we already spoiled the ending for you. He's a multi-millionaire now. That is the true lesson in this: is if you don't have that, then just stay in your job. Don't try this entrepreneurship. It is not for kids.
That's right. You have to be stubborn, man. I was so stubborn and so hard-headed. I'm like, I'm not losing this money. I couldn't sleep at night with the idea of, I'm just going to go back to dealing cards and this money's just gone. I could not accept that as my fate. It just was not going to happen. Because you have to be a very stubborn individual to say, okay, I'm going to push through this and get to the other side. And that's what I decided to do. In fact, after that point, I joined Mastermind. I hired a private mentor. And that's actually how I got into wholesaling, because I started wholesaling houses too. And so I was wholesaling and flipping at the same time. And that would have never happened if it weren't for that pain that I had to go through.
And what would you say was the catalyst to that mindset? Was it something, do you think it's something you're born with? Do you think it's something that you develop? Like where does that come from? Because that is the true secret sauce in successful versus unsuccessful entrepreneurs.
That's a very tough question, man. I think it comes from our childhood somehow.
Some sort of trauma or some shit.
We all, entrepreneurs have a screw loose, man.
Right.
We do. I don't know what it is, but I noticed this because all my friends are entrepreneurs now. I don't have any buddies or like the casino guys. I don't hang out with any of them no more. I don't have friends who work a 9 to 5. All my friends are entrepreneurs. They're either real estate or they're investors, like in crypto. Like they all have a screw loose. It's all.
Oh yeah. They all got some sort of crazy story or trauma or something that they went through. But that's what shapes you. If you live a coddled existence, you're going to probably take the safe route. You're not going to be willing to take the risk like Corey and myself. So I love that. So you started crushing, you started picking up some steam after you got mentorship.
Yep.
And, fast forward, I know you had an incredible career in wholesaling. How long did you do real estate for?
We did real estate for almost a decade. And it was quite a while, man. I mean, I was coming up in the space. You were kind of already ahead of me. And in fact, you're probably about 2 years-ish ahead of me. I started in real estate about 2015. And so, we started wholesaling because obviously I have no more capital. And all these people are saying, hey, you can get deals with no money out of your pocket. Like, how do you do that? Like, I don't understand. How do wholesalers get deals? This is a true story. I literally went on Google and I typed in, how do wholesalers get deals? And guess who came up?
I want to guess Sean Terry.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean Terry. Sean Terry was our first mentor in the wholesaling space. And if you guys are getting into business, I don't care what kind of business it is, if you don't have somebody that's already where you want to be teaching you, you're just going to crash up against the walls and you're going to waste time, energy, probably your life savings like Corey did. So it's been a huge part of my journey was to learn from people that are already where you want to be.
That's it. If the mentor is not in a place that you want to be is light years ahead of you, then he shouldn't be your mentor. Period.
Correct. So you end up finding Sean Terry, got some mentorship, and then really started building your business here in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yep. And, Corey and I met shortly after in a mastermind in a mentorship. We're huge on education. I'm a high school dropout and I've spent over $1 million on my own education because it's that important. It really is to continue to invest in yourself. You really picked up traction. You ended up becoming one of the first people in the real estate space to master what's now known as novations.
Yep.
Tell them a little bit about Novation Nation.
I'll tell you how that all came about, right? Because this is kind of a funny story. I'm doing, wholesaling, some fix and flipping, and we're doing about like, I don't know, 7, 8 deals a month, which is not bad, right? Here in the Arizona, well, Phoenix market, it's very competitive when you try to be market specific. And so, I'm up against all these gurus like Sean Terry, Justin Kobe, Carlos Sal, which is awesome. It's forcing me to be better. But like I wanted to scale. And I saw people like you doing virtual wholesaling, nationwide wholesaling. I'm like, man, if I can crack that nut, and maybe I can scale out of a 7, 8 deal box, and then I can get to 20 deals a month, 30 deals a month. And so what I did at the time, the horrible mistake, never do this. I shut down all the local marketing and deal flow and completely switched to the nationwide model. I always tell people, if you're going to go nationwide, do virtual. It's fine. It's great. Do it, but make it an arm of your business and then slowly scale down the local model as you're scaling up the virtual model.
That's just a business principle in general. If you guys are running a company, if you got something that's working, never jump ship until you have the other thing working. Even if you say, you know what, this is what I want to move towards, great, move towards that. But don't shut down what's working until you've already proven concept and worked all the kinks out. It's a huge mistake, almost 10 times out of 10.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Why cut off what's paying the light bill? What's paying for you, in your lifestyle? It was the biggest mistake I made. So I was running in the red, deep in the red. And we were at a mastermind. In fact, it was a mastermind that both me and you were in. It was out in Florida. And there was a guy presenting on his business there. This guy was talking about how he's doing wholesaling and novations. And novations, he's talking about how he's selling these deals on market to conventional, finance buyers. And I was like, in that mastermind, because I have a pain point, right? I got a pain point going on. I'm running in the red. I have all these deals, and I can't sell them because, we're contracting at the wrong price. We don't know the market very well. We don't know any cash buyers in the market. When I heard this guy talk about novations, I was like, man, if I can figure out how to sell my deals on the MLS to conventional finance buyers, boom, my problem is solved. So I went home and I made it a mission to learn how to crack the code of novations. And that's what we did, man. And it took me about 3 months to do my first novation deal. We screwed it up, of course. And it took us multiple times to really get it nailed down. But then I crafted it a way to do novations where we could do it nationwide. It wasn't really me, it was my attorneys. So I took all the paperwork from novations. I gave it to my attorneys. I said, look, I want to do this nationwide, make this ironclad as possible. And they did. They buttoned the things up and we started practicing it nationwide. And that took a lot of work of understanding every state's laws, the due diligence process, everything that goes into doing retail. It's where retail real estate meets investor wholesaling real estate. And it took a while to kind of crack the nut. But after I would say about 9 months to a year, we were running to a point where we were doing maybe 10 to 20 deals a month in novations.
And dude, that's what it takes. You shifted your business model when you got into a difficult pinch again in business. You figured out how to maneuver and get through it. Yeah. And that's really what all the best entrepreneurs do. You look at all the greatest companies of all time, they've had to shift and pivot their business model along the way in order to remain successful. Before we move forward, I'm going to go ahead and do a part 2 on this. Stay tuned for part 2.